5 o'clock, I call this work session to order. First up is grant applications. Yes, sir.
Yep, 0 for 4, which is not good. But I think I had mentioned to council when we resubmitted for additional points. On 2 of the grants, a huge chunk of the points were awarded for communities that are underserved with park facilities. We're way above that, so we lost a handful of points right out of the gate. We had made some adjustments based upon the visit from DNR staff to try and, improve our points, and that just didn't work. And the reality is, there is way less money than the asks that are going around. I think I might have mentioned that with the drinking water revolving loan fund, that there was about $3 billion in requests, and the state only had $1 billion. So that's just the way it goes. But we have, and we will try and apply again. There are some grant applications due February 1st, and the rest are due April 1st. That would be rolled into our next fiscal year budget once we decide what we actually wanted to go for. But we did sell a piece of property down on Lake Street for $105,000, and council basically earmarked that for park improvements. With all these grant applications, we put that in the grant application as part of our local match. So we didn't get the grants, we don't need to use that as local match, so we now have $105,000 available for park improvements. So I gave you the list of the 4 parks that we had applied for. The easy one is on the back with the renovating the fishing deck, and I have an email into our engineers to where the status is on that. We were still waiting for permits and to bid that out. I think we had those in hand. But then the DNR said, oh, put the fishing deck into your grant application because it's ADA, it improves the ADA compliance, you'll get a lot more points for it. So we did, we got some more points, but not enough to get the funding. So we're gonna take that back out, we're gonna move forward with bidding that out and getting that, that repaired. And Tifa was going to pay for that, Tifa will still pay for that. So I think we can take that out as part of this evening's discussion. But staff, maybe it's been a broken record, and for those of you that are new or coming back, we've been kind of focusing on fixing what we have, because we've got a lot of needs, and taking care of what we have versus having something new and shiny next to something that's falling apart doesn't really send the right message. So going over this list with Brian Armstrong, our Public Works Director, we are recommending, of course it's up for grabs tonight, resurfacing the west parking lot at Funnel Field, which is by the playground and by the west end bathroom. Resurfacing and expanding the middle parking lot, which is by the softball fields. That parking lot has never been big enough for pretty much anything. So, the fix is there, but we also think that if we're fixing it, we may as well expand that. The other one is to resurface the basketball courts that are at Funnel Field. We've kind of had that on the radar for a while, just the funding has never jumped up to the forefront.
Can I ask a question on that?
Absolutely.
What kind of resurface would that be? Because those are really in bad shape. Are they gonna just grind the concrete, or are they gonna lay another layer of asphalt on it?
I think at that 14,250, I think that's a complete replacement.
Oh,
I think
okay.
that's what it is. I think we were able to resurface the tennis courts, and then we added the pickleball striping. But I think these are almost to a complete rebuild.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah. Yeah, they get to a certain point, like the tennis courts out here, they're beyond repair. The other is to repair and upgrade the irrigation system at Goodrich Park. We keep, spending more and more money fixing leaks and replacing sprinkler heads. And then the last one is an ADA compliant drinking fountain. We've had a drinking fountain on the west side of the Marina bathhouse that's been inoperable for years. And it's, I don't know who picked it out, but it's the old cobblestone brick. It probably weighs 1,000 pounds. But the one that was in the grant that we're looking for is ADA compliant, so people with mobility issues can easily get to the drinking fountain. I do believe it's also got the water bottle filling, and at the bottom it's got a bowl for dogs. So that's our recommendation, but that's the list. All of these items are coming out of our Parks and Rec master plan, which we actually updated to make sure all these were included, plus it was the 5-year window to update our Parks and Rec plan, and we did that late summer, early fall. Actually, we would have done it about a year ago, because these grants would have been in April 1st of last year.
A couple of questions. Where, I think the fishing deck is really important. I think that's been necessary for a while. Where do restrooms at Goodrich Park fall on the priority list? They're kind of bad, aren't they?
At Goodrich Park,
Yeah.
those are actually in halfway decent shape. We've got the 2 attached to the pavilion. Now, it's a comparative thing.
Yeah, it's all
Council
relative,
member.
right?
Yes, it's all relative. The ones at the Marina House or in the bathhouse are actually in pretty good shape. But we got a crew that's there 12 hours a day that's
Yeah.
keeping constant watch on them. The real bad ones are over at Funnel Field. The ones by the softball field, by the playground are still usable. The ones up by the Little League fields, I don't think they've used those in 3 or 4 years, and they rent porta-johns. Those are a big ticket item. Those are gonna cost you can see down there, over $100,000 each. It's amazing, a small bathroom, men's and women's. Of course, now, the trend is to go to unisex, so somebody's not standing outside waiting for one while the other one's open. Years back, we had submitted a grant with the Little League. They had put some money into the grant application, and we just didn't get it funded.
I do think the ones at Goodrich, I mean, I know when I go in there, it's at least the women is very dark. If we could at least have a better light so you can kind of see what you're doing. And we don't have somebody fall and sue us. But those, I mean, especially with opening up the downtown to the lakefront a little bit, are probably gonna get more use. And, the Goodrich Park gets a lot of use in the summer with kids and things. So I think that would be one. Also, I know you've got wood fill for the fall protection. I'm hoping that going forward we use the wood more than some of the asphalt type things that are used, not necessarily in ours, but they're just starting to find that those are not really good for kids to play on.
Yeah, there's basically 3 types, and I think I included 2. One is the poured in place fall protection, which is the rubberized, and basically it's like concrete. No, it's not. I shouldn't use that. The way it's installed is like concrete. You have a border, and it's the rubberized that you pour in, and then that gives you the fall protection. That's the most expensive.
How does that deteriorate?
Like anything outdoors in Michigan over time, it will slowly deteriorate, and eventually, it's got the longest life. It's much like cement roads versus asphalt. Cement lasts twice as long, but it costs twice as much. So the poured in place is the most expensive, but it's got the longest lifespan. You will have to occasionally go in there and seal some cracks, but it will last longer than anything else. The other is the engineered wood fiber, or the rubberized, which is, we have that over at Goodrich Park right now, underneath the play structure. And then the regular wood fiber is basically wood chips that go through a process where they're super smooth.
Yeah.
Sand is not good anymore. I mean, all of us survived, falling out of a swing set and hitting sand. But yeah, that's not ADA compliant nowadays. So there's basically 3 levels that are approved, and most expensive to the cheapest. And then with the wood fiber and the engineered wood fiber, you're supposed to keep replacing that because they wear out and they disappear.
Well, I just want to raise 2 issues going forward. One, just exposure to kids playing with things that are some of the plasticky or asphalt tire, but also just plastics just ending up in the environment, like part of the dirt, little teeny plastics. It's just not, to the extent that we could start limiting that, we've got so much already. I was just talking to a scientist friend of mine right now, and it's just becoming a growing issue. And actually wood chips are probably the best because they are natural.
Providing they are and I'm forgetting whether those are the wood fiber or the engineered wood fiber. You don't want to just, the stuff that you put in your garden, you don't want to use that because that will splinter and cause some minor injuries.
Well, and then one other question, I mean, if it's getting more competitive, and I know that we have an emphasis on staff writing grants, I mean, that success rate is probably not the best. And that staff time that's going into that, I mean, does the regional commission still hire out for grant writing?
Does who?
Regional commission?
They do. I think that's kind of being less and less part of, because the mayor sits on the transportation board. I think a lot of that is kind of less part of their offerings.
Or just a grant writer? I mean, if it's getting more competitive and we're spending, you know, a week's worth of staff time and we have a 0% success rate, maybe we need to look to hiring it out?
We could, that's gonna cost.
Yeah, well, it does cost to have staff work on it and not get anything.
Yeah, but I don't know if your success rate is gonna be any higher with a professional grant writer. Staff has, I think since I've been here, is probably close to $6 million in grant funding from the DNR. Waterways was kind of surprising that we didn't get that, because they used to love us, I think they still do. So,
Just a thought.
yeah, this time around, it was disappointing, because there was a lot of staff time that went into all 4 of those grants. But again, you know, when they never tell you what the scoring is until you submit, then they come back and say, oh, this is what we scored on. And again, I think it was about 20 or 25% of the available points we didn't even qualify for. Now, had we known that beforehand, maybe we would have looked at different grant sources, knowing, you know, we're behind the 8 ball right away.
Do you ever apply to the White Lake Community Fund?
Yep, we do that on a routine basis, not a regular basis.
They've got more money.
Yep. And we also look at the Community Foundation for Muskegon County. We look at both those sources.
On the fishing dock, getting back to that, is that gonna be like an exact replacement of what has been there? Is it gonna be bigger, smaller? And second, is that something that our people could build?
First of all, I'll answer the first question first. It's gonna be approximately the same size, but we're going to greatly improve the ADA accessibility, and it's gonna be different material. It's probably gonna be more of an engineered plastic. Maybe she's not paying attention at the
I
end.
heard
but-
that.
So it's gonna be pretty much the same configuration. And our crews, they're not gonna build it, because the big thing is we have to go down with proper footings and pilings. Because the reason that got busted up is, you know, it was built to code, and we thought built to last, but with the high waters and the ice that we had 2 winters in a row, it just, same thing with the concrete docks out at the marina, that Mother
foundation is
Nature's, yeah, she's gonna win. So that's the key issue on that, is the proper footing.
Okay.
I have a question. On the Goodrich Park, security cameras, $4,000, how many cameras is that? And what type of cameras? Do they move? Are they fixed?
I think they were all fixed, and I'm not sure how many that was, as far as cameras, but you also have that included installation and the Wi-Fi setup. There was not a lot of cameras. I don't even know if it was half a dozen.
How would they monitor them? I mean, would they be recorded or what?
We have, I can't give away all the secrets, council member. We have a system at City Hall where we can monitor all city security cameras.
Okay.
So these would be wired in. There's nobody sitting there watching,
Right.
but if a situation arises, then we have the ability to go back and identify suspects and time of occurrence and,
'Cause that really seems pretty reasonable. In fact, we could maybe aim one at that tunnel. And, 'cause I noticed the south end is all painted up again.
it is.
And it looks like, I think that, you know, as a council, we approved this thinking that this was gonna be oh so wonderful. And it turned out to be a fiasco. And delinquents go down there and don't follow any rules and do as they please. And I think that we owe it to the city, to the people of the city, to straighten this mess out. And, you know, because you said last time that you didn't wanna paint them in the winter, you couldn't really do much painting in the winter, so then they do it this time of year, and then it stays up until
We-
June or July or whatever.
Well, DPW is aware of it. We can paint over, but it's not ideal, because obviously they can spray paint in almost any type of weather.
Right.
But to get a good cover, you want the warmer weather. And with what's under the tunnel, that's what we're gonna wait for. But we have already overpainted some objectionable items that have been spray painted late fall. So DPW will get out there and cover up what has recently appeared.
I mean, that's not really under what we're talking about, it's just that the cameras thing made me think of, maybe we could aim one over there or something.
I don't know if they would, we could look into having something a lot closer.
Uh-huh.
Because, you know, if you want something aimed over there, then you'll be paying a lot more for a higher quality camera.
Oh, maybe we can get it back in fines.
The very first kid we catch.
If you get a great big casing for the camera and paint it orange so that everybody knows it's there, it is a better deterrent.
You could even put a fake one up for that matter, and it might serve the same purpose.
That actually worked for quite a few years down at the marina.
Yeah.
Kind of boggled me that people never, because it was the old coaxial cable, and it actually dangled below the camera. Nobody caught on that it was a fake. But we have real cameras at the marina now, in case anyone's listening.
Public, yeah.
So I'm guessing what the discussion here is does this council agree with staff recommendations? Is that what we're talking about, Scott?
Does that
Yes.
use it all up then, what you have,
I think we end up at 106,000, if you add them all up. But again, these are estimates, so they, you know, it'll be in the $105,000 ballpark.
So if the council was agreeable to these choices, that doesn't mean that come budget time, there couldn't be other money for some of this stuff.
Yeah, this would be current fiscal year, and most of this we try and get done early April or May. And then we would start another fiscal cycle on July 1, and we could tackle some of these as well, or put them in the grant applications again.
I don't know, are we planning to approve it tonight? I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I think it looks good, so.
I think they can give us general support.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not gonna be on the agenda, but if council's agreeable, then we'll move forward with these.
I'm sure in favor of it.
So it appears we have a consensus of agreement with staff recommendations.
And we'll try to minimize plastic usage.
Thank you.
All right. Unless there's any further discussion on this matter, we'll move to the next item, is appointments.
Well, I know Councilmember Brown's name is behind it, because he had asked that it be on the agenda, but you have in your packet an appointments policy, which I drafted up so that at least there'd be a pretty good frame of reference for tonight's discussion. I wrote it, but there's no, hold tight ownership. You can throw the whole thing out the window or, change anything you would like. But at least we got a good basis for discussion. I tried to include everything that I heard, not just at the last council meeting, but over the last couple of years. So I guess it's in front of you for discussion.
I think it has a good starting point. In my eyes, there's probably a lot of things that I would prefer be tweaked a little bit, but I guess that's up to everybody else also. One of the questions I have is, out of the 16 committees and boards, or, whatever you want to call them, that we have, how many of those are required by state law to have the mayor or the city manager as, as one of the designees?
The simple answer is none of them. From my, I'm pretty confident by that. The planning commission, the state law allows the city council to establish a planning commission And I think by our population, we can have 7 or 9, 5, 7, or 9 members on the planning commission. And it gives the council the option to include the mayor, a council member, and the city manager or his or her designee. So that is established by, excuse me, ordinance, which could be amended. And I think in all practicality, the city manager has served as a zoning administrator, and typically the public works director has been the designee. So I'm pretty confident that the answer is none of them, but state law allows that as an option.
I just think
I-
we need to be more consistent in, what we're doing. I mean, we got, half of them says the mayor's supposed to be on it. Half of them say a council member's supposed to be on it. Some of them don't say anything about it, any requirements about, whoever is supposed to be on it. You have the same thing for residency. Some of them say, I think there's one that says you have to be a resident of the city. There's one that says you don't have to be a resident of the city. There's 3 or 4 of them that say you need to be a registered voter, but it doesn't say you need to be a registered voter of the city. So I just think there needs to be a lot more clarification and, make it even across the board,
Yeah, I can't argue with keeping it simple and making it even across the board. But when you're talking the 16 different boards and authorities, some are somewhat beyond your control because it's the fire authority or solid waste or some other entity that I guess in a sense you've been invited to participate in. So it would be difficult to kind of get, consistent across the board. And I will point out that the Board of Review, the Election Commission does require the clerk and the mayor. So there are some, and I don't know if that's state law, but I do know that it's at least charter. So to change a lot of these, you're gonna be changing a number of ordinances and maybe even a charter amendment, which is a little more work involved in that.
I have a question on that. The ones that say appointed by the council, there's several of them. I'm just wondering, we were never really involved in any of those as far as deciding who was gonna be on, whose name was gonna be in that position, like fire authority. So we got a list of all these names and we either approve it or we don't. And I'm thinking that the council, the ones that are appointed by the council, I think we need to have more council input. I mean, I think we're kind of skating away too easily by just taking a sheet of recommendations that comes from one person or from wherever it comes from. I know that you make recommendations and the mayor makes recommendations and that's fine, and that's the way that the rules state. But I think the ones that say appointed by the council, we should, if there's more than one person interested in serving on that board, we should, the council should look at that and determine, and maybe even have that person in a public meeting talk about why they think they would be a good appointment to that board. Like it's kind of like a job interview, more or less. I don't know, are we just skating off too easy and not really doing our job because we get a list and we just say yay or nay on the whole thing? It just seems a little too easy to me.
They could at least do a written application that we could review.
We
Seems
do
to
have
me.
those currently.
But how many of the people that were appointed filled one out?
All of the new people filled them out, right? And I think we have very few new people.
But who looks at them then? The council didn't look at them.
Yeah, the application process is new because of redevelopment ready, and that's relatively new in the last year. So prior to that, you have a lot of people that are more long-term members on those boards, so that was not really something they had to do at that point.
Mhm.
So-
And I would suggest that we look at the names one or two, or that the names are at least presented 1 or 2 meetings prior, so that if we do decide to deny somebody, that we have a chance to look at some other applications. You know, when it comes down to the last meeting of the year, and you have to do it because, you know, everything just expires in the next couple of weeks, then you don't have time to really massage the issue at all.
I would caution that we do it in such a way that does not start making people not want to put their name up if they're the subject of a full council meeting where people talk about yes and no and why and not. I would feel uncomfortable talking about applicants in that way. That's just me, so.
Well, and to go back, Councilmember Sicking gun yours, no, you're not skating by, and you're certainly not doing your job. Double negative for you. It's been the process ever since I've been here, and I don't think it's ever been an issue. The full process is, as you know, and it's a timing thing, because you always have a new council. The first meeting in November, you've got 3 meetings to get that end of year deadline. But I think I mentioned before, most of them say they serve until reappointed. So even though a term expires, they might still be on January and February until, you know, vacancy is filled or somebody's replaced. So as we get near the end of the year, Brenda and I will look at the list of all appointments. We'll look at those people that are set to expire, and we typically present those to the mayor. And the mayor, he or she, will go through that list and give us an indication as to who they want to be reappointed. If there's a vacancy, a lot of times, you know, there's not a flood of applicants sitting on Brenda's desk. A lot of times Brenda and I are sitting there going, you know, who can we think of? So it's not, but I hear what you're saying, and Councilmember Brown has brought it up before, a little more participation by council, which I think this is kind of trying to set that up, and maybe it needs to be tweaked. But we would encourage any council members to come forward. You know, probably a good starting place is with Brenda, because everybody likes Brenda. Give her those names, and, you know, we can contact the person and just confirm that, you know, they know what they're getting into, and if they're interested.
Send them an application if they don't have it.
Yeah, and then we can, you know, we can always present those names the second meeting in November to the entire council. But I think Ms. Cabala's got a good point. You have to be careful.
Right.
Because nobody wants to say, hey, I want to volunteer for this, and then you get.
Get grilled.
Yes.
Not only grilled, but, you know, people saying why they like that person or not that person. That's, that I would not participate in that.
I think the other piece that, you know, we have the application process now. The other piece that we need to be careful, okay, let's say we do have 10 people and none of them are qualified. How do you say, okay, we're going to choose this other person over here when you've got 10 applicants, none of them are suitable, they just don't have the experience or knowledge or whatever it is that we're requiring. Well, I put an application and I didn't get on, so how do we?
And there's a trapdoor, because somebody who submits one might automatically think, I've submitted, I'm going to be appointed to something. And if they submit and there's 5 openings, they don't get any of them, they're going to take that position. Councilmember Brown, just to double back, maybe I just need a few more words, but wherever it said qualified elector, qualified voter, we try to be a little consistent, because sometimes it said qualified elector, sometimes qualified voter. That is in the city of Whitehall.
Okay.
So you can't, wow. If it says qualified voter, you have to be a qualified voter, and you're a registered voter in Fruitland Township, that does not qualify you to serve on those boards. So we can clarify that.
I'd like to go back to my suggestion of civic education workshops and citizen advisory committees, because I think, sorry, it's my medication alarm. I think, you know, I'm all for more participation in our governmental affairs, but I think the more that we can do things like what Scott did with the orientation and bring people in to see, then I think I would feel more comfortable with the that bigger picture look at encouraging people in the community to be involved and, kind of going to this other approach quickly before trying some other approaches to just bring people in. And I always tell people you can attend meetings, you can make an impression and have influence attending meetings, So, and talking to your council members. And I always invited people. I invited a couple of people I know who I won't say to go for planning and for council members. So, I think that's part of our job as well. I did have one thing. In fact, I had talked to Scott with this, but I want to bring it up again. The Solid Waste Authority, you've got not that that's a city council member, nor the authority board, and at least when I was on both of those, I thought it was. And in fact, I was told that, Scott, because when I left the authority, I was actually told that I had to leave the authority when I was term limited 7 years ago, because it was a city council position. And everybody else on there is an elected representative. So if we're gonna be switching it up, those are relationships that we have that I think are important to have elected official representation, especially if that's what is gonna, if that's what the other folks are. If they're elected members, then I think we should have elected.
Well, it doesn't preclude council from appointing a council member to either of those. But Brenda and I pulled up, and we can double check with the Solid Waste Authority, but what we have on file, there was no requirement for Solid Waste or the Fire Authority that you had to be a council member. It requires residency of the city of which you're being appointed, but.
Well, if it's not the case, I'd like to insert it, because that's who we are serving with. That's who's on these boards, is elected officials that represent the township or the city.
Well, and by saying insert it, it would be up to the Fire Authority and the Solid Waste Authority to amend their bylaws if it's currently not in there.
It could be part of our policy,
It could be.
and that's what I'm suggesting. Yeah, I think that, I think, and that's been our tradition, not that we just keep it that way because we've always done it that way, but that has been the accepted tradition, and that's what I was told. You wouldn't let me serve on the authority for years and years. It wasn't Steve. So, but, yeah.
I would, on the first page there, it says appointees falling below 50% in attendance over the last 10 meetings, regular or special, shall be subject to removal regardless of their term's expiration. And I would change that third word to 2. Appointings falling to 50%. Like we discussed at the last meeting, I think that's ridiculous if somebody can't make.
I think it should be changed and should be raised way up from 50%.
Well,
If you're only gonna come to 50% of the meetings, you're not doing what you were appointed to do in the first place, as far as I'm concerned.
As it's written, 50% is okay.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm saying it should be at least 60 or 70%, or you're off.
Or, or unless somebody is, sick or laid up seriously or something like that.
They
For
should
sure.
resign and somebody else should be appointed to take their place. If you can't be there, you can't be there.
Yeah.
If it's medical and you're not gonna be able to be there, then you should resign from it and somebody else should be appointed to it,
Yeah.
is the way I see it. But I think 50% is way too low. If any one of us sitting up here only came to 50% of the council meetings, the next time there was an election, I can guarantee you wouldn't get elected.
If I ever drop to 50%, fire me. For certain.
Does a council member have to fill out an application to be considered for any of these boards? Or do they just need to let it be known that they're interested in it? What we have in here, every effort will be made to appoint each member of the council to an authority board, commission, or committee. We have one council member that's on one board. We have one council member that's on 3 boards. And we have one council member that's on 7 boards. and we have the other 4 council members that are on no boards. So there's, I think we need a little bit more diversity on, you know, if we're gonna do what we're saying we're gonna do, then we need to do it.
Yeah, I wouldn't think a council member would be required to fill out a form, probably just let it be known that you would have interest on 1 or 2 boards, or 3 or 4.
I've got another question, and this pertains to the Marina Advisory Committee, which I guess may change anyway, but 7 members, 1 is a council member, 1 planning commissioner, 1 seasonal voter, 1 city resident, and then 3 of any of the following: Fruitland Township, Whitehall Township, White River Township, Montague Township, City of Montague, City of Whitehall. Is there some requirement? Does the city own the marina? Is there some requirement that we should have people from all these other places involved?
Yes, the city owns the marina, and yes, there's a requirement that we consider the townships as well as the city of Montague. Way back, when I wasn't here when the marina was built, maybe some of the ladies in the way back here were, it was extremely controversial. There were petitions filed by citizens to stop the construction of the city marina. I don't know if it was the private marinas fighting the public, because there was funding from the Community Foundation, from the old MEGA, which was the Muskegon Economic Growth Alliance. I think they loaned money on a revolving loan fund. Steve's shaking his head, so probably those of
The
us
Hooker Council settlement?
Yep, there was money there, plus there was grant funding.
$130 some on the Hooker Chemical settlement. I think that may have been part of it then.
Yep.
Not much money though.
But it was pretty controversial in the whole White Lake area. So part of the compromise, if you will, is that there was originally a marina board that was established that had autonomous control over the marina. And a lot of these appointments came in, you know, basically to buy in some of the townships that were, or township residents that were adamantly opposed to the marina. Over the years, it went from more autonomous with a lot of authority to an advisory. But the membership has stayed the same, and I think this goes back to probably mid to late 90s is when the change was made, from a board or an authority down to an advisory. So yeah, currently in their bylaws, and they, you know, they could all 3 be from Whitehall Township. You know, it's not, each one of those communities has to be represented.
Is that, would that be a breach of trust or anything if we went back and tried to change it? I mean, I think that the city ought to have more control over that than.
No, time wounds all.
Heals.
Heals all wounds.
Wounds all heals.
I have not, you know, and I think the private marinas and the city marina actually get along quite well. Like with Crosswinds, we always talk to each other about our fuel pricing so that, you know, we're not here and they're not down there. So I think a lot of that has gone away. I don't think it would necessarily be a breach of trust. It's just a change dictated by a change in times.
I don't know. I actually have appreciated, Jeff's been on the most of the time that I've been on, and I appreciate, it doesn't seem like there's been undue influence by the other. It seems like they've basically been letting us run it. I would probably be on the other side of that because I'd rather not stir the pot and have people be upset because we're removing them from something they've been on. And, you know, they all have a piece of the lake as well. You know what I mean? The townships and the city do, and I think I'd like to respect that. But I haven't seen any undue influence, and I don't know, was there a suggestion of moving this to another committee? Because I appreciated hearing specifically.
Turning it over to Tifa.
Yeah, I would rather not do that, because I like hearing from Jeff specifically. I like hearing from the representative on the council what's going on. I thought Jeff's done a nice job of reporting on that.
Would none of these other townships or cities contribute to the costs, do they?
No.
Yeah, I'm not
I mean,
bothered by that. I just think that I'm not interested in unnecessarily ruffling feathers. I've been part of council years where we have ruffled feathers, and it's kind of a lot of drama and distraction. I'd rather not enter into that unless it really makes a lot of sense. But I'd like to keep the advisory if you know, unless there's other reasons to switch it. I'd like to see the authorities go back to elected too.
I didn't understand, what was that last one you said?
Well, I'd like to see the fire authority and solid waste authority be elected. That's been the tradition. And when I served on the fire authority and solid waste authority, you're serving with other elected people from the townships and the city. And I think I like the working relationship you have when you have all elected people there on the fire authority, all elected people because they're accountable. All elected people on the solid waste authority. I just think.
So you're saying that during one of the elections, there should be somebody's name, or?
No. In the past, the fire authority and the solid waste authority, the appointments from our council were elected, like me, like Steve, like Debbie, elected officials. And the way it's been rewritten is that that's not necessary. That's not gonna happen anymore. And I'd like to go back to the way that it was, because at the very least, the people on the fire authority from the other townships and cities, the people on the solid waste authority are elected. And I like that relationship, I guess, personally and professionally. So I think rather than having somebody that I probably won't see or hear from, serving on that and not really being heavily engaged in our city business, and making decisions about the budget and how much we put into that, but I think it's better to have the elected. Do you understand what I mean, Scott? It's not, I'm not talking about
I guess the being
election.
elected part of it's what's
Well,
throwing me
it
off.
would be one of the 7 of you.
It'd be the one of us. Yeah, not a,
So
not
you're
a.
saying we should elect one of the 7 of us to be on the fire authority and one of the 7 of us?
Appointed.
One of the appointments should be
That's the way
one of
it's
them.
been, that's the way, I don't know, Steve, do you wanna explain? You do that,
Not that
don't
there's
you?
a
It's still,
separate
that's the way
election.
it's done. I mean,
No, but it's not the way in the new policy.
well, this isn't a policy, this is a
draft.
recommendation, this is just a
That's
draft.
why I'm,
document for
that's why I'm,
discussion. This is not the policy.
exactly, so that's why I'm making the suggestion that this is the draft, and I'd like the draft to change to reflect the fact that for those 2 authorities, that it is a member of council.
And just for clarification,
It's not in there.
the
That's what
fire
this is.
authority and the solid waste, their articles of incorporation don't require the representative to be an elected official. It could be just standard operating procedure, that it's been that way from the city of Whitehall, or it's been a preference. I think what you're saying is that you actually want that chiseled in stone.
I want that there because, first of all, that's at least their understanding. That's who they have at the table.
No, because
Who do
one of
they
our
have?
fire representatives is not an elected official.
Okay. Well, then solid waste authority. But, so at least one of the fire authority is elected and the solid waste authority.
Mhm.
I think it's their understanding. That's what I'm suggesting. I'd like to go back to the way it was. I think, at the very least, if I was not on the solid waste authority, I wouldn't be able to hear from somebody on this body about what's going on, and that's a pretty important authority. So,
Maybe there needs to be, and to follow up on that, some sort of feedback from, I know we get the minutes for most of the board meetings
Yeah.
that come into our communications. For some of those that are a little less obvious, or I'm not sure what the right word is, maybe there's somebody that comes after the meetings to one of our meetings and follows up if they're not part of council.
yeah, well, and I just think the easiest way is just keep it the way it was. That's
Who
my
are
vote.
our representatives on the fire authority right now?
Jeff Holmstrom and Norm Kittleson.
Good. Thank you.
I don't have any problem with it being
One
one
of
of the 7 of us.
them. Okay, thanks. I'm sorry I wasn't clear, Scott.
That's how it is right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but whether you want them to etch it in stone or not,
Well, I mean, I think if we're writing a policy, we should put it in there.
For both of them, not just one.
Or do it one elected and one non, because we need two for fire, but
Right.
yeah. If that's the way it says, so.
I don't think that it's, first of all, the collection of all of the thoughts over the years is pretty impressive. When I read that, I think I can remember hearing all of that at some point along the line, so I thought the draft is really well comprehensive. I'm not sure if we've ever talked about it, but are term limits something we should consider? It seems like maybe that's something that would, I mean, we have term limits for council. I don't know if that's something we would want to add. I guess I would be in favor of some sort of term limits.
I agree.
I don't know that it's necessary that we have to have a council member on, every council member on something, but certainly if a council member is interested, to put forth that information is important. And I just will say again, I don't think that one person should be on multiple, I mean, maybe we set a number, I don't know, especially when the person on those boards has appointed themselves. I think that's a conflict. It's almost an abusive position. I don't think
Oh, come on.
somebody
Come
should.
on.
No, really, I think, would you appoint Scott or Steve or me to all the different boards?
I would appoint someone that was gonna do a good job.
Well, I think that's
Everyone that I've
accurate.
spoke to in this community thought it was a great idea that the mayor was on all these committees because
Okay.
that person was
I'm
connected to all
not
these
asking
committees.
for an argument.
Well, you're
I'm
talking
just-
about abuse of authority.
That's
That's talking about me.
I'm not talking about, I'm talking about the position, the person who's appointing them, in this case you. I was in that role. I didn't appoint myself to all of the boards. I offered and asked people if they were interested and found out I wasn't asked as a council member if I wanted to be on any boards. Nobody even asked me. So,
Maybe they didn't want you.
well, you don't have to be insulting.
I'm not insulting.
and
I'm
get
stating
defensive.
facts.
You're saying a fact that
Right.
people didn't want me.
I didn't say that. I said maybe they didn't want you.
Okay, well, maybe that's true, but I think that you are
But when
getting
you're talking about
defensive.
my undue influence on a board with 9 people, each one of these
I-
boards I'm on, I'm one vote.
I don't want to
That's
argue.
undue influence?
I'm not arguing with
Well,
you.
you brought it up.
I am stating my opinion about what I think should be in
Well,
the policy. You do not have to agree,
I
that's
don't.
okay. But you don't need to argue with me. That's all I'm saying.
Don't argue with me.
I didn't.
Okay.
I still think that we don't have to have one person on all that many boards. I think there should be term limits considered, and I don't think it's necessary to make sure that every council member is on a board, because maybe they don't want them.
You know, well,
I think that was rude.
I don't think we have a long line of people wanting to
Agreed.
be on board.
I understand that, that's why we
We've
have.
never
one.
had that.
I wanted to be on a board.
I wanted to be on a board.
I didn't ask, I asked on December 9 and it was already settled.
I was on a board and was removed from it, and didn't even know I was removed from it until I was sitting right here and we were voting on the new people that were appointed to the boards.
Ouch.
Right after the election, I personally emailed every one of you and asked for your input. And said, let's sit down and talk about
And we
what you
did.
want. No, it wasn't everyone.
Well, I did.
I know you did. And I still want that. I want people's input. But I don't want to show up at a meeting at the last end of the year and have a fight over appointments. The fact of the matter is, the charter says the mayor appoints and the council approves. Now, if you don't want to do that, then work to change the charter.
Well, that's why I have brought this up numerous times. I think the charter needs changed. It's old-fashioned.
Well, make the effort to change
We
it.
are the 7 people that are elected by our community to represent all the people in this community. When you have one person appointing all the people, that's not the 7 of us deciding who those people are.
right?
It's one person deciding who the people are gonna be.
No, it's not one person. Those recommendations come from the staff. The staff is recommending these. I'm the conduit for the staff.
But that maybe gets back to the point that I was making earlier. If we look at the recommendations a month earlier, which I think is in here, then
We've got from
then
now
we can
until
vote, then
December.
we can vote down a person or several if we choose and still have time to agree on somebody else.
You got every day from now until December to sit down and give your input to me on who you would like on what boards.
I do like the idea of the policy. I don't know, I mean, I don't have a problem with the conduit. I don't have a problem with that. I think that we don't have enough people who are coming forward. They don't either know about it, they're not interested, I don't know. But I think the 7 of us could do a better job of talking to people, getting people interested, educating people, and maybe there's a more formal type of education system that we can come up with to be able to provide that input, because I don't think that we've done a good job in the past of making those recommendations and bringing that information. It's always fallen to staff and the mayor. That's just how it's been done. Doesn't make it right. It's not easy, it's not fun, especially like Steve said, when you get to the point where the recommendations are made and then it's a battle. I like the idea of a policy where we have a plan for how we're going to approach it.
I agree.
And I think it's a work in progress. I don't think we have to iron it out today. I think we can go off and think about it and come back. I think it's a great start and we've had some good discussion about it, but I don't think it has to be ironed out today.
And I do want to, and I'm gonna put it during our goal setting session, do some things on civic education. I encourage people to come and they're like, oh, you can come to a city meeting? It's like, well, yeah, it's kind of for you, so, you know, so, and you know, people are busy and people don't realize that they have government right here in their own community that they could come and participate in. And I would really, you know, I think this is a good start, but I think it'd be helpful to try to inform people a little bit more about government. And then I would feel that we probably would have some more people showing up at some of the meetings to find out more and to say, hey, I think I'd like to, you know, participate on this committee, you know, and put my application in. So that's the tack I would like to take.
All right, at this point, we need to open it up to public comment. Is there anyone in the public that would like to make a comment before we adjourn the meeting at 6 o'clock? It appears not. So unless anyone has comments they want to make? All right, we're adjourned.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
She got back with 30 seconds to spare.
All right, first up is approval of the agenda.
I'll move for approval of the agenda for January 9, 2024.
Second?
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say yes.
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 Opposed say no. The agenda is approved. Next is the consent agenda.
I'll move for approval of the consent agenda for January 9, 2024.
I second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Any questions? All those in favor of the consent agenda say yes.
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 Opposed say no.
No,
Consent agenda is approved. Next up, messages from the mayor, council, and city manager. City manager, anything you'd like to share with us?
Yes, I would. It's right here, right on top where I wanted it to be. The State of Michigan Department of Transportation opened up the bids for the Warner Street project on Monday. Our engineers gone through itemizing, you know, making sure that all their math was right. And the apparent low bidder, which I believe the state of Michigan is gonna award, subject to us objecting, is Terra Contractors. Brandon Newhoff has worked with them before. They're a reputable company, obviously a qualified low bidder. And, you know, the state's qualifications are a little tougher than the city of Whitehall. The engineer's estimate was $1,082,000, and I round, so I'm gonna stop there. The low bid was $1,057,000, so about $25,000 under the engineer's estimates. There were 5 bids. The high bid was $1,006,000. And I know Dick Cano used to ask me, why is there such a difference? I don't know. I know that actually in one bid, the higher contractor actually said he was looking to buy a vacation home. So, I probably shouldn't have said that at a public meeting. You gotta advise me a lot better than that. So we're very excited. Following the state's approval, we will probably have a pre-construction meeting here very soon, because, I mean, I know we're starting to get winter, but soon enough we'll be tearing up that road and laying some new pipe and some new asphalt. So that'll be a spring project, and again, we're very excited with the bids that came in.
Is there any questions?
Yeah, there's already some pipe laying up there along Warner, and there's a couple chunks of concrete ripped out. Is that part of the project?
I believe right now DTE is replacing their gas main.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a smaller yellow piping.
Yes.
Yeah, that's gonna be your gas line.
Okay.
So they're getting in there ahead of us, which is fine.
Mhm.
As long as we don't hit any of it.
Well, that's why you rely on Miss Dig.
Call 811.
All right. Steve, anything for council tonight?
Yeah, something I brought up in the past, was wondering when, of course, we don't do budget when do we do budget?
We will probably start that, April. I think it goes to council.
I kinda wonder where, if we could get a report every quarter or something like that, what our what our budget was, and where we are spending wise in that particular, like say the playhouse or the, just kind of an update, so that we know where we are, if we're way over in something, or if we're, it'd just be interesting to look at that, to see what our budget amount was, like if it's however many million it was, and how many we've already spent, or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yep, we will have that most likely at your next council meeting. We do quarterly budget updates. And with the one coming, might require some budget amendments too.
Okay.
So to make some, if our revenues are a lot lower or higher, or vice versa with expenditures,
Mm-hmm.
we'll be providing that at your next meeting.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Scott?
Do we have any final figures on how we did with the deer hunting in the city?
Well, we do. It was on the agenda, but Councilmember Holmstrom asked that maybe we push that off to the February meeting. We have
sorry.
three designated areas. I won't say properties because some people combine. We had 5, 3 buck and 2 doe. So, and I think there were close to 70 deer that were spotted and 5 taken out.
Well, it's a start, I guess.
That hasn't changed in a while, has it?
What's that?
Those numbers were the same the last time the question was asked.
I think the
Last time
Chevys
it
and
was
Fords
2
are getting more
two
than
and
that.
1.
Pardon?
I think the Chevys and
Yeah.
Fords are getting more than that.
I agree.
Yes.
Is that all, Scott?
That's all I had, thank you.
I am going to go on January 25 to a municipal league training for newly elected people. And I went the other day and asked Brenda how to do that. And she said, I'll do it for you. So that's
You're
good.
signed up?
It's a real good course.
Yeah. And I think that's about it. I would Actually, I would comment on something. I was here at a meeting probably about 10 months ago, I think, and Steve asked if there wasn't a way, Sickinga, Mr. Sickinga asked if there wasn't a way that we could get a good accounting on the Playhouse, to find out what they, and I don't know if he was talking about monthly, quarterly, or whatever, but it was said that the way the previous accountant had done it, you could get a good accounting for them, but something changed when we hired new accountants or whatever. I'd like to see that made a little bit more clear so we can see how much the Playhouse is or isn't making, excluding city grants and things like that. And I'd like to, as long as we got the budgets process coming up, that would be a good time to start.
Yeah, the update on the Playhouse will be included with the whole city budget update.
Right, but does it, like in the report that we got a couple of weeks back, it's got everything in there, but when it doesn't lay it out clearly how much of the money was coming from the city. I don't think that there were, it says the ending statement included grants and gifts and something else.
The audit itself is not nearly as detailed as our budget. The budget, which you get, obviously, you'll review and approve later this spring, as well as the budget updates, will give line items. So you will know exactly where all the Playhouse money comes from and where all the expenditures are. Not down to the pencil, but it'll be office supplies will be included, telephone expenses, so it will be broken down more.
Okay. That's it.
I will also be attending the training, but I will be doing it online.
Okay.
So, then thanks Brenda for the posting the planning packet and information. That was super helpful, and hopefully it wasn't too far for you to, I know you mentioned it was some juggling that you had to do, so hopefully it
Well,
was.
probably what I'll do is do that for all the boards, is right on that front page where we have the notices, is put the packets. That was the biggest thing, is trying to figure out, and they'll come down as things are updated, so that will help as far as the space.
Yeah, I think it's great. It's a great ad, thank you. That's all.
Daniel?
Just a reminder, I need to sign up for one of those trainings as well, and probably the virtual one. A couple of things. One, Scott, is there an updated priority list for the streets? I just had I had mentioned this to you, a few people from West Obel asking where they were on the priority, and I just want to see where the streets are at. Or is that on the website and I can find it?
I'm not sure if it's on the website. I don't think it made this newsletter,
No.
but I can get that to
Okay.
council.
That would be
And we
great.
haven't, we're still chipping away, so we
Yeah.
haven't really moved anything up.
Okay.
But
Yeah, I think they want to get on the priority list, so.
a lot of people do.
I know, but they walk that street, and
Yep.
a bunch of them contacted me, and so you probably should be getting some photos and letters from them. I'm not sure if people are aware, and I brought this to pass out, the group that's working to get kind of hurry up the state and the company that took over DuPont to finish up the cleanup. Granted, there's been some cleanup done. I'm not going to dispute that, but they need to have a final enforceable agreement. And that's been kind of slow in coming, especially since this year is the 10th anniversary of delisting White Lake as an area of concern. So it'll be an interesting year because we're going to be doing some things. But they have been doing a fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. They've been doing a fantastic job of, they meet weekly by Zoom in person, and they interact with the state and the Comores folks. And they finally have an update coming Thursday, January 25th, at Weber Township. It's a 1,300 acre site, and there's still some things that need to be done. And then they're also having a meeting this Thursday at 7 to help prepare, so it's like a community information meeting. I know they've been around asking for letters of support, which I believe that we've given them one.
I just received it tonight.
Okay, good. And also, they also asked if there could be a representative from our city at one or both of those meetings. And I don't know who's going. On the other hand, I will go, and if you want me to report back, I can certainly do that. I've been working with the group for years, actually. First time I went to a DuPont meeting was 1989. So it would be nice to kind of finalize this and kind of see what the future use of the property is going to be. I have some extra ones here for other folks, but hopefully the agreement is going to be negotiated by the Attorney General on the behalf of the state of Michigan with Chemours, and honestly, the community doesn't have a seat at the table. And so the only option that is available to the community is to make sure that their preferences are known as far as what needs to be in that cleanup, and they have been doing so, but I certainly hope that people will help us, kind of get the best cleanup we can there, so yeah, and if you see them, compliment them. They're an amazing, every single site of contamination should have a citizen group like this, monitoring, studying, everything. They're just doing a fantastic job.
Okay. So I do have this letter
Yes.
that they're asking for my signature, and it says that they're, in conclusion, the city of Whitehall stands firmly in support of CIECS's advocacy and urges prompt action to address the environmental concerns at the Chemours site. We believe that thorough and responsible cleanup is essential for the well-being of current and future generations of the White Lake area.
There is a list of the things that they're looking to get cleaned up, and to be clear, there's no risk to human health right now. People are not drinking contaminated water. There's no, human contact exposure issue. It's just been, they closed in 1996. And the state of Michigan generally works on a voluntary basis with companies if they continue to, investigate and see what's going on with the site. And a lot of it was accepted practices. It's not comparable to Hooker Chemical at all. But it just needs to be finished. I think the SEEP group would like to retire. They've been working on this since 2018, so.
So
Do you need a motion for us to authorize you to sign that?
I
or-
would certainly like council's input on this, as well as staff. I mean, this is asking me to put my signature saying that the city of Whitehall is in support of this. I'd like to know where the council stands and where staff stands on this. It's not just my signature.
Well,
I'd like to start with staff. Staff?
I mean, I guess go ahead, but I mean, you can sign it, there's no legal problem with signing something
I'm
like
not
that. It's just a
concerned
message of support, it's
legal.
not it's not a,
I'm more concerned that
right.
staff suggests or believes that this is a good thing for the,
Oh, yeah, we have
to
no
support
objection.
this. Okay?
I mean, we've had our issues on this side of the lake and support those on the other side.
I don't want to just sign it because Steve Salter's the mayor. I want to sign it because the council and the city is behind Steve Salter signing it. So, if anyone,
Would you mind to read it one more time? Because you read some of it, right? Was that the whole piece, or?
no, that was actually the last paragraph. The
whole thing's
pages,
really long, okay.
it's a long,
Okay,
but the basic thing is,
what you just
and
summarized.
what Tanya has said, Tanya's been a part of this for a long time. I personally believe this is a good thing, and I'd like to see this go forward, but I don't want to just assume that because I'm the mayor, I can sign for and speak for everybody. I want the consensus of the public that this is a good thing.
I would sure agree that it's a good thing and that I would like you to sign it.
Do you want to
I
vote?
would too.
I don't need a vote.
Okay.
That's just sufficient. Okay?
Do you, Steve, are you gonna go? I'd like for us
Yes,
to
I'm
have,
planning on
Okay.
attending the 25th.
on the 25th?
Yes.
Okay. And keep in mind too, if you wanna be better informed, the January 11th is the community information. The 25th is the state agency, but that would be good, Steve, if you were to get up and say that as the city of Whitehall, we support the
Sure.
efforts of this group to move the cleanup along.
And that's what they're looking for in this document. that
Yes. That'd be
they
excellent.
have that support. So I will certainly sign that. And with that, you know, I want to read another thing that said, it's a familiar quote that many people have heard, and it says, the only thing necessary for triumph of evil is for good people to do nothing. We're always looking for good people to serve our community. So I don't want people serving anywhere on boards or commissions that are not qualified to be there, that are not good people. That's our job, is to do good governance. And we're all trying to do that, and the more that we communicate with one another, the better job we can do with that. So, with that, we'll move on to public comment. This is an opportunity for the public to comment on anything.
Steve, did we need a vote on this?
You will,
Okay.
if you want to vote, I'm fine with taking a,
I think a vote would be nice.
I mean,
It's not necessary.
it's not necessary.
Okay,
It's
I
not-
just,
I mean,
I want to vote, but it's okay.
How about, everybody in favor of it, raise your hand. I'm in favor of it. All right,
Okay,
we're all in favor of it.
thank you.
So, back to public comment. Does anyone want to make a public comment at this point? It appears not, so we will move on to old business, which I don't believe we have any at this point.
No, sir.
All right, new business. Next up is White Lake Wanderland and Walk the Beat request.
Is there a motion needed?
What exactly is the Wanderland? I'm not familiar with that.
We have somebody here.
Just so happens,
Should I?
please,
All
if
right,
you
look
would.
at it.
Yes,
You're good?
if you're
Okay, I'm
comfortable.
comfortable here if
Okay.
everybody can hear me.
All
White
right.
Lake Wanderland is, we're a nonprofit, and I don't remember our mission statement exactly, but it's to support our community and get people to get out and do things, and support all the businesses in mainly outdoor activities is what we try to do, and involve all the businesses. So that's what White Lake Wanderland does, and Wanderland supported the snow farmers, getting the snow farmers started. So it's just that type of thing. We do, the last 2 years, we've only done one event, the winter event, where they have the cardboard sled race and snowshoe shuffle, that type of thing. Previous years, we had done a fall event also. Fall, winter, and then we even did a spring one. For the last 2 years, everybody on the committees have gotten busier, and so we've only done the one event each year.
Okay. Any other questions?
When's the date of this event?
Okay. The Winter Wonderland is February 2nd, 3rd, and 4th.
Okay, thanks.
Yes.
I saw that, I apologize.
No?
So I guess you're looking for council support of these activities.
This one.
I'll make a motion to support and to waive the fees for the food trucks for those 2 events.
I'll second.
Moved in second. Is there any further discussion on this?
Voice.
Voice vote? Okay. All those in favor say yes.
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 Opposed say no. It's approved. Next up is Feed on the Street request.
Is this something we need a motion for again, or?
Yes, yep, because they will be reserving a portion of the North Mears Promenade in the social district for the event.
I'll make a motion to allow their request.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on this? I think this is a great community event. This would be what, I think the 4th year?
Yeah.
What year is this?
At least.
It seems to be getting bigger and better every year. I have great expectations for this year. Hopefully the weather's warmer this year than last year. All right, all those in favor of feet on the street request, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no. Feet on the street request is approved. Next up is resolution 24-01, senior millage.
I'll make a motion to approve the application for senior millage allocation in the amount of $15,414 through the community education and 3205 through the senior center.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on this?
Well, just, I sent some things out, and ideally, I'd like to have a discussion for the next round of funding. I just, like to, first of all, to see what seniors would like to have with that funding. And I also, I think certainly it's probably being put to good use, but I'd like to be a little more intentional. And then also, I can't find anything out about the senior center, so maybe you've got something, Scott, you can send me. I don't know who's on their board. I don't know who their staff is. I looked for a website, there's no website, there's not much on the Facebook page, and I feel uncomfortable allocating funds to an organization, and I have no knowledge of who they are and how they function. And so going forward, I'm not likely to support funding to them unless there's more transparency in their operations.
We can do that for you.
Thank you.
So, unless there's further discussion, roll call, please.
Sittinga,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Zemer,
Yes.
Hillebrand,
Yes.
Kabala,
Yes.
Salter.
Yes. Resolution is approved. Resolution 2402, Board of Review.
Make a motion to accept resolution 2402 as written.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on this? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Brown,
Yes.
Sittinga,
Yes.
Kabala,
Yes.
Hillebrand,
Yes.
Zemer,
Yes.
Salter.
Yes. Resolution is approved. Resolution 2403, Poverty Exemption.
I will move the poverty exemption resolution for 2024.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Scott, this is one of those, this one and the next one are one of the ones that we have to do every year.
Correct, and the poverty exemption comes from the state of Michigan, the guidelines and the amounts.
Can you explain it though? Because it's always a little confusing to me.
What part? Those people that qualify for the poverty exemption can have their property taxes waived
Okay.
or reduced.
That's helpful, thank
Yeah.
you.
Do we have any idea as to how many our citizens actually take advantage of that?
I'm sure we do. I don't have that, but I can get that for council.
I'd be interested to know of that.
I talked with Alyssa about that the other day, and I think she said it's 1 to 3.
1 to 3. I knew it wasn't you.
Right.
1 to 3?
1 to 3 people.
Which
A
is
year.
wonderful.
Yeah, I think we asked last year and it ended up being, it was one last year.
Right.
Okay.
That's a good thing. All right. Roll call, please.
Kabala,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Sittinga,
Yes.
Hillebrand,
Yes.
Zemer,
Yes.
Salter.
Yes. Resolution is approved. Resolution 2404, Residents' Right to Protest.
I'll move resolution 2404, residents' right to protest. This is, I guess, just a renewal of the thing we renew every year, basically, right?
Yes.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? None? Roll call, please.
Sittinga,
Yes.
Zemer,
Yes.
Hillebrand,
Yes.
Kabala,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Salter.
Yes, resolution is approved. Next up is public comment. And this is where students step up to the podium and give their name and their class teacher. They want their
My name is Addison Hall. I come from Montague High School, and I'm here from Mr. Brunson's class for my government class.
Thank you.
I'm Juliana Weathers. I come from Montague High School. I'm here from Mr. Brunson's government class.
Thank you.
I'm Caleb Derby. I'm here from Mr. Brunson's government class in Montague High School.
Thank you.
I'm Emma Trevino. I'm here from Montague High School for Mr. Brunson's government class.
Thank you very much.
Do they need signatures?
Yes, after adjourn the meeting, which, unless anyone has anything,
Excuse Jeff Holmstrom's absence for this evening. Could we do that before we adjourn?
yes, we could.
Thank you.
I would like
So
a
moved.
motion.
Yeah, second.
Moved in second. All those in favor of excusing Jeff Holmstrom from tonight's meeting, say yes.
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 Opposed, say no.
Public comments?
Public, yes, sir.
Yeah, John Hanson. So for the food trucks, do they need to like submit a letter of intent that they're going to? Do you need to know who they are? What's the process? I'm sorry. For Walk the Beat and for Wanderland.
We'll make it easy for you, John. When the chamber hosts their events with food vendors, we just let them handle everything. We don't require the applications or proof of insurance. It's just all done under their umbrella.
Okay.
So you would go for that route.
Okay. All right, very good. Thank you.
Wonderful. All right. Anyone else? Last chance? We're adjourned.